This is Surrey County Cricket Club. Born in a tavern in 1845. The symbol of Kennington, we've seen London grow around us. Cricket's original champions, as Charles Alcock brought his vision to life and we cemented a reputation as a place of firsts. International football, FA Cup finals, international rugby, test matches, as well as where English pride came to die, before a great rivalry was born from its ashes. We share our feathers with royalty and pass on the honour of the brown cap through generations. We've seen England's best spend their careers with us.
Well, that's Jack Hobbs. Head and shoulders, yes, over all other living batsmen.
And the game's best finish under our gasometer. We've won 7 in a row thanks to Surridge, May, Barrington, Locke, Laker and the Bedser twins. In fact, we're well known for our famous siblings, but there's always been one family who've stood out. We saw the West Indies grip a nation on our doorstep, and a pioneer set records galore in the women's game. The end of the century brought a fresh take on Ik Dien, as Holyoake and his England teammates transformed us on the pitch. The changing of the oval skyline brought the greatest of finales.
There it is. England have regained the Ashes.
And an era of final test triumphs.
Alistair Cook has done it. A century in his last. Well played.
On our way to our own red ball century. We're one half of the game's oldest rivalry and its only London derby.
Can you clear the pavilion?
Local players are always the lifeblood of our side. But the world's best are attracted to us too. We've come through tragedies.
One.
Now we're home to world champions.
Yeah, I'll get straight into them.
And cricketers of the year. 175 years have passed. There's much more to come. This is Surrey County Cricket Club.
Yep.
Heart of London, pride of the county, the grandest stage in world cricket.
Good morning and welcome to the Kia Oval for the fourth and final day of this clash between Surrey and Hampshire. Before we get into the action in a couple of minutes, let's see the highlights from yesterday, a 32-over session where Hampshire made their way to 116 for 5. They're still 92 runs away from making Surrey bat a second time. Yeah, it's fine. Nicely worked by Vince. Great timing. Out to the short rope. No backswing required from the leg stump line. First boundary of the day. Vince, his first runs. He's 8. Edge down, gets the second slip. Pope's so good in there. Gabbins just holds his ground for a moment, but the catch has been claimed. Worrell gets a second, Surrey get a third. 41 for 3. It's always Worrell in that channel. Good response. Off the mark, off the pair, with a lovely off drive down towards the rope. It'll reach it. Well played, young man. That's a good shot as well. We saw one of those in the previous over from Prest. A second boundary.
Oh, now then, that's squirted away past third slip. Pigeons scatter, and it is just going to make it crawling over the rope down below me. Cameron Ponsonby, and James Vince has greeted him with a glorious shot off the back foot, punched through extra cover for 4.
Cutting for 4 to finish. Again, it's well behind point through about 5th slip. So didn't middle it, but does move to 19. This time it's taken at second slip. Almost identical to the ball that was put down and over a go from Atkinson. He's earned that wicket. It's been a fine spell. Press gone for 23. Oh, that's close again. Roach is insistent and he gets his way. It's the huge wicket. It's James Vince to depart.
It's flipped away nicely. It's going to run away for 4. That's nicely played. I love a back foot punch. And that's exactly what that was. Dawson's looked good working order in this innings. Now this could make it all the way to the boundary. It does. It's lightning quick on this outfield that's taken.
Perfect timing, so that's the state of play. 116 for 5 Hampshire. Dan Worrell to bowl the first ball of the final day. Brown leaving close to the off stump. So it was Brown and Dawson who came together yesterday with a score at 87 for 5. The last of the 3 wickets to fall in an interesting session. Only 32 overs possible on day 3. Gubbins was out, caught second slip from the bowling of Worrell for 10, pressed the same result, caught Pope at the bowling of Atkinson for 23, and then with the score still on 87, Vince, the key wicket, across his stumps, leg before wicket to Roach for 26. And this pair batted at the last 40 minutes until the close. Still 92 away from parity. As I welcome Daniel Norcross for the first time today. Hello.
Hello indeed. Well, weren't they keen to get out there? The first ball was bowled at 30 seconds before 11 o'clock. So there's a keenness and an urgency to get on with things today. But from a Hampshire point of view, they've got 2 very, very capable batters at the crease. They've got James Fuller to come, and then the 3 bowlers. And it is obviously a massive uphill task for them. But they have got 2 guys who have got multiple hundreds in their back pocket. They will look to dig in here. Also, of course, we talk a lot about the Duke's ball and how much less venomous it becomes after a certain period. And well, we're in that zone here. And throughout this match, after 40 odd overs or so, it's been much harder to prize out the wickets. So Dawson and Brown will have set themselves a task to bat through till lunch.
If they can do that, they'll likely be ahead in the game in terms of
they'll be up to parity at
making
least,
sure Surrey will need to bat again. That's the first step, as you say. They need to drag this as deep as possible. Rain won't be a factor. Radar looks clear. Very good from Worrell. Very, very good from Worrell with his 4th ball of the day, past the outside edge.
He's already on the money, isn't he, here? And look, it may sound crazy, given the way the game has gone so far, but if a partnership develops and a couple of spells each, because Surrey haven't been using the spinners, neither have Hampshire in this game. It's all been about the seamers. If they can get a bit of weariness at the Surrey bowlers' legs, well, yes, they'll get a new ball after lunch, probably pretty much around the stroke of lunch.
Yeah.
And they'll rest up then, but this is a key session for Hampshire if they can dig in.
3 slips behind Brown. Outside part of the bat. First run of the day to deep backward point. 117 for 5.
The last half hour yesterday, Dawson looked in really good touch, actually. Brown was beaten a few times outside the off stump. It'll happen. But Dawson looked very comfortable indeed.
We might skip through the other games as well while we're together at the start of play. There wasn't a ball bowled yesterday at Chester Street.
That's a shame.
Which means that Essex are going to find it impossible from there to claim full points. Top of the table at the moment. Durham 358, Essex 314 for 3.
You imagine
off the scene the other way. Great ball to finish as well. 1 run from it, 91 the deficit, with Dawson 18, Brown on 8.
You'd imagine there that for Essex they'll be eyeing 400, try to get if they can get a 4th batting point. It's a bit of an ask because they've only got about 12 overs to get 80 odd runs, but with wickets in hand,
nothing lost.
There's nothing lost, is there? You might as well just crack on with it, and unless they're thinking if we bat normally and sensibly through till halfway through the day, which they did, interestingly, in the first game of the season with the Kookaburra ball. They didn't give themselves a long time to bowl out Nottinghamshire.
True.
And they managed to do that. So I'll be intrigued by their tactics there, but you'd think they'll be looking to get on with it. They've only lost 3 wickets, and one of them was Sam Cook, who was opening as a night watcher on the first day.
It's going to be Kemar Roach getting the first opportunity from the pavilion end.
Bowled well yesterday.
Yeah. 2 wickets in the innings. Middleton on evening 2 and James Vince leg before late yesterday. 2 slips for Brown. And a catching mid-wicket in close.
He's employed a leg slip quite a lot in this game. We haven't got one in at the moment, and in fact, you might think that Surrey's field is not particularly aggressive here. It's just the 2 slips, as you say, and then there's a really intriguing fielder. Ryan Patel is about 6-7 yards in front of square on the leg side. There's a short mid-wicket as well and a mid-on, so obviously they're thinking the ball tailing in and the little clip. It's almost a catching position Patel's in. Maybe we can get a shot of that. If we can just angle back a bit, we'll see. It's a specific position for Brown. He's not standing by the umpire, Patel. He's, like I say, 5 or 6 yards in front of square, and then there's the short mid-wicket, and the long leg is really quite wide. It's not a fine leg. With only 2 slips in place. There you go. You can see Ryan Patel there.
Triangulation on the leg side. So we've seen the in-swinger and now the one that moves away from Roach.
Andrew Samson's in the building.
Exciting. Always exciting when Samo's here. Always exciting when a spinner bowls too. Seen very little of it in this match. Dawson came on briefly.
2 overs?
Yeah, I think his first over was the 99th of the innings or something like that. Yet to see Cam Steele in the match, who, as we've talked about throughout the match, is the leading wicket taker in the country. So this might not be a bad time to see what's what after the first 2 bowlers have had a crack each. Maybe Lawrence as well. They might go.
Well, I suppose if they are thwarted in their ambitions in the first hour, you can see a bit of spin being deployed, especially in the build-up to a second new ball, because Surrey are in the enviable position here, not needing to panic. If they don't get a wicket early, then they've got that second new ball to look forward to, and by that stage, unless Hampshire have really got a wriggle on, the scores will be around parity.
Nice morning. Sun's out. Oh, that's a ripper. It's ended up with Ollie Pope on the bounce, but just for a moment I thought it was going to carry. Seeing here Brown having to play on that line and just getting a piece of wood on it. Otherwise he would have been in strife either leg before or bowled.
It's had a busy old match, hasn't he, Ollie Pope? Taken 5 catches. The ball's come to him on numerous occasions.
On the money right away, Kemar Roach. Good response from Brown. Maiden complete, 117 for 5.
Technically, it's dropped 2. I'm really counting it as 1. There was one that was so hard, diving away to his left, one-handed, an inch or 2 off the ground. But he's snaffled 5 in the match so far.
Emailed in from Richard, surreybroadcast@gmail.com. You can communicate with us in the commentary box throughout the season. Morning, Adam and Dan. Given we've lost time to rain, any reason why we've not started earlier this morning?
Yes.
Let's say Hampshire stretch out the game and set Surrey a total to chase. Surrey would be kicking themselves if they ran out of overs in chasing said total. Is this cricket just being silly old cricket? Cheers and enjoy the day. Richard.
You've answered your own question, Richard. Yeah, for some reason that none of us can quite fathom, you can't make up overs on the last day.
There must be a reason for that.
What? Travel?
No, yeah, Samson says travel, but that has to do with 11 a.m.
That's the morning thing,
But
yeah.
the wider point about, every other day, days 2 and 3, sorry, you can extend it. Day 1, if you get rain on day 1,
well,
for the extra half an hour on top of the extra half an hour.
You can extend in the first 3 days, because if you bowl your overs really slowly,
that's right,
you just keep going.
I'm applying Test cricket brain to
You've
that.
got to bowl those 96 overs. If it takes you till 7:15, then so be it. You're overrate. You get an overrate penalty. But
yes. But it's a fair point.
Yeah.
If we can do it on days 1, 2 and 3, and we do it on days 1, 2 and 3 for the right reasons, then what is it about day 4 that's sacrosanct? Why can't we then make up time there?
Day 4 is weird in so many ways, isn't it? Isn't tea always at 3:40 come what may? On the other 3 days, it's when there's 32 overs remain. So it's almost as if, days 1 to 3 were put in there for cricket innovators to do the right thing, and day 4 is a sort of recherche reminder of the absurdities of the past.
Doesn't get overly high. That might be a factor as we get deeper and deeper into the day. Beats the outside edge as well.
I was going to say, today we've seen a few go through, but predominantly anything pitched up has gone through low. I think those slips and keeper might want to think about coming up a yard, especially early on. I always think that slip positioning is a weird one, because early in the day, if people get a nick, they tend to be getting them defensively because they're playing themselves in. At other times when they're going for it, it goes harder and faster. And I seldom,
the edge, super stuff.
I seldom see slips move depending on the batter. Do you know what I mean? So,
right.
Obviously you get some people who are going to get the edge in a more aggressive way and others in a more defensive way. And yet the slips stay exactly where they are. And also, as the ball gets softer, now they must be doing it imperceptibly, but do you think they're active enough? I mean this across all professional cricket, because sometimes it does frustrate me that they seem to be in exactly the same position.
It's a fair point.
Regardless of the newness of the ball, the batter who's facing, the shots they're playing.
Edged, and that's taken at second slip. No concerns there about carry. Liam Dawson flashing at one. He's frustrated, hitting his blade as he leaves the square. Worrell gets his third wicket. That's what Surrey needed early on. And Pope, another good snaffle, his fifth of the match, diving away to his right. 117 for 6, mate. That is 6 for the match, Andrew Samson tells me.
Well, that is a super grab, actually, because it went really quickly. We were just talking about where slips should stand depending on the shots you played. Of course, typically, played a defensive shot, it went through low. Or went through low to the keeper when he missed it. And this time, as he pushed at it hard, it flew. It's a really sharp catch from Pope. His 6th of the match, and I think Jamie Overton. Did Jamie Overton get 6 in the match last year, I think?
Yes.
But
Against Notts from memory.
It's not a usual thing to get 6 catches in a match.
Watching it back here, over towards third, makes it look easy. Gets both hands to it. There might have been a bit of a bobble on the way down, but it doesn't matter. He's safe, Ollie Pope. He had one that went past him or through him yesterday when he was a fraction further up. But yes, Dawson, knowing there that that wasn't the shot for the moment, and it does expose the lower order. Dawson out for 18. Looked good last night with 4 boundaries. James Fuller, who batted well in the, well, what there was of a recovery on day one, made 39. He put on 61 with Nick Gubbins. He's going to have to bat for a long time with Ben Brown here.
Well, Fuller is likely to bat in an aggressive way. It's his way. But that is a body blow for Hampshire. We're only 11, well, when the wicket went down, 10 minutes into the day's play. And probably one of the 2 men that Hampshire would have thought could get a substantial innings and stick around has gone. Brown is still there. But there's now an end open for Surrey, because you imagine Fuller will be pretty aggressive, and then we get down to the 3 bowlers, who are not incapable by any means, but this isn't a Hampshire tale with Holland and Barker in it. It's a Hampshire tale of Wheel, Abbott and Abbas after Fuller.
Straight away again, Worrell asking all the right questions. Wicket maiden for Surrey's attack leader. He's got 6 wickets in the match. 117 for 6, 4 wickets to win.
Has he bowled a bad ball this morning? I mean, I think he's bowled 2 overs. I think he's beaten the bat on about 4 occasions and taken the edge once. It's fabulous stuff. They must know what's coming, but it's still... Those edges keep coming. How many of Pope's catches have come off Worrell of those 6? 4 or 5?
Couple in the first innings, I remember. Good. He's taken 4 in this innings already, for what it's worth. 4 out of 6. That gets me pondering. 4 out of, if he keeps going on this way.
Mickey Stewart's 7.
Well, but I mean, in terms of,
Northampton.
you can break this down yet further, can't you? How many times? What's the? Samo can find this very quickly. The highest number of catches in an innings in a match between, say, Surrey and Hampshire for an outfielder.
4 of his 6 have come off Worrell.
Yeah. 2 in either innings.
Now, we did ask you yesterday that for recency, I guess. Most number of catches for Surrey in a match in the last 10 years, and I think you shot back with Jamie Overton taking 6, did he? Last year. So he's level with that. When's the last previous instance of 6 catches in a match? For an outfielder, this is.
Yeah, we got quite excited about Overton last year, didn't we? I think we... I'm more interested in an innings more than the match overall.
Okay. An innings, yeah, because
innings
there's still 4 wickets to go.
Yeah, right. So Sam will crunch the numbers and give us the full suite of options here that'll get us excited. Certainly if he takes another.
Yeah. I mean, Stewart's 7 against Northampton is always going to take some beating.
Yes.
He technically still could do it.
Dare to dream, Daniel.
Why not? I mean, Worrell is the man for it because of the arc of his deliveries. It's sort of perfect for second slip. Curiously, though, in a match where a lot of catches have gone down behind the wicket, not that many for the keeper. Jamie Smith, how many have come to him?
Smith didn't take one in the first innings.
He didn't drop any. I'm not suggesting he's
hasn't taken
made
any
errors
in the second innings either. Oh, sorry, he did get one. Got wheel. Yep. Sibley got one in the first innings. Dawson, but yeah, mostly the point you're making, it is trending towards second. Yeah. And even third, there was a
Dan Lawrence
snaffle at third slip. Dan Lawrence in the first innings taking pressed first ball. And the other side of the page, the first 4 dismissals for... the first 5 dismissals were bowled a leg before when Surrey were batting. 4 bowls and 1 LB. Another maiden for Roach, 117 for 6. Frugal so far this morning. And then after that it was a couple of caught behinds, another bowled and a run out.
Yeah, weird, isn't it?
Yeah.
A strange lack of catches to the keeper, but there have been catches to the slips. See from the match situation there, Hampshire are in, well, all sorts of trouble here. 91 behind, and they're going to have to bat an awfully long time. I think, as I was scenario building this, making my way to sleep last night, I felt Hampshire needed to bat at least 74 overs today. I mean, obviously it's it.
I enjoy your scenario building. So crunch. So 74 gets them to what you would call safety.
It gets them to a point where they're in with a really good chance. So, well, I didn't have it quite as aggressive as 209 with 20 overs left, but
it's worth keeping in mind.
I sort of thought if they were going at 3 to 3.5 and over, that would have gotten to about 150 lead with the break between innings, 20 overs to go. Now Surrey would still obviously go for it,
they'd have a real
good
crack
chance,
at that, yeah.
But also with the bowling attack that Hampshire have got, they could take wickets with Surrey attacking. Going at 7.5 and over when you have no fielding restrictions. That was my kind of thinking. That was where I was roughly coming from. Now, of course, you know, Fuller and Brown could go on a scoring spree and that could change the equation. But what I'm basically telling you, folks, is if you're a Surrey fan, you don't need to get too agitated until after tea if Hampshire are still batting. And if you're a Hampshire fan, you need to settle down for the long haul. But you know that anyway, if you're a Hampshire fan. It's more the nervousness that comes into the supporters of a team that's on top. At what point do they start catastrophizing? Oh, now that was nearly the Ollie Pope dismissal in the first innings,
wasn't it? Close, yes. The deflection off the, I don't know what exactly, back of the bat perhaps. Believe that was a single instead. 118 for 6.
You need to be a little careful with the leaves with Worrell. We'll have a look here.
Yeah.
Because he bowls a nice full length. That could so easily just cannon back onto the stumps. The third slip in place now.
Fuller off the mark with that single. again, looking to leave, looking to play, looking to leave. It's all
I don't like those kind of
difficult.
leaves. We did a nice little package on the difference between Rory Burns' leaves and Ollie Pope's leaves. And to me, the Rory Burns leave is the leave I'm happiest. It's the most comfortable leave in the world. The hands and the bat get out of the way. This last leave, we get a replay of this. This is perhaps my least favourite leave. This is the flirtatious, sabre-rattling leave. This is the sort of Ravindra Jadeja's just scored a 50 leave. I don't like it.
The leaving options open leave.
Yeah.
That's better.
That is, I like that leave. That is a super leave.
Get everything out of the way. But I kind of get it with Worrell that if he's on the fourth stump line or even the fifth stump line on that angle wide of the crease, part of you is thinking, gee, I better just be ready to thrust the bat down in case it jags back. Maybe not quite off the length from 2 balls ago, but as a matter of principle, you know that he's got, it's not just outswingers with Worrell, he gets a lot of wickets with the one that comes back off the seam. Thumping his bat into the turf. There's that genuine outswing to finish. 118 for 6. They trail by 90, losing 1 wicket. So far this morning, Dawson caught at second slip by Pope from the bowling of Worrell for 18. So just 2 runs added to their overnight tally. And a long way to go. 91 overs remaining on the day, and they'll get them all in. There'll be no dramas with rain today.
No, we're actually due for things to warm up a bit. I mean,
people have been saying that for a month.
Pinch of salt, yeah. I've got to. But they're talking about the heady heights of 18, 19 degrees. I mean, naturally, it comes with a rain premium. You can't have it all. Have you still got your central heating on?
Yep.
Yeah, me too. I really resent it because I'm quite tight when it comes to central heating.
Well, my very British wife, who you know well, is less keen on the heating being on, and me with my Antipodean blood, I'm more forthright about these matters.
My wife likes to have the central heating on when it's cold, but even she has said it cannot go on in May. So we've just, we've just got loads of blankets that we can.
You're going to need them.
It's totally arbitrary. I mean, if it's really cold on the 1st of May, why not?
There was a game I was doing here in 2016. It would have been this round, because I think I, from memory, flew out around the last week of April, where snow stopped play.
Yeah.
It was the year that Chris Rogers was captaining Somerset, and the Oval was caked in snow for a good couple of hours before they got back on.
It can happen.
Cold that year.
I mean, I've tobogganed on the White Horse at Wiltshire in late May in I think it was 1976. The spring of 1976, the year of the Great Drought, was absolutely foul.
Nothing on that.
So, obviously there is not necessarily a correlation, but dreadful springs do not mean dreadful summers. Dreadful springs have meant fantastic summers in the past.
We had that awful spring in 2012, which I think it was the wettest May in 250 years. Jumps out at me for some reason. I don't know how they measured this 250 years before, but anyway, the moment the opening ceremony of the Olympic Games started, the weather opened up delightfully. But didn't cause a lot of cricket to be rained off, if I recall correctly. They somehow managed to get on for a lot of the early part of the season. It was rain that was deeply frustrating. It meant there was one
county that struggled enormously. Samo might be able to help me out here. There was an incredible stat about the amount of cricket that Yorkshire
right,
didn't play. Do you remember? And it was, I think it was 2012. They missed a phenomenal amount of cricket.
Like Gloucestershire last year.
Yeah.
Where Bristol just
didn't.
Whenever they were at home, it was raining in Bristol. Poor old Nick Friend from the Cricketer was there for all of it. Good shot that, but he's not going to get rewarded for it. The captain diving away to his left, saving a certain boundary.
2020 was amazing. When we were in the bubble,
yes.
Whenever it rained at Old Trafford, when the games were at Old Trafford, it rained at Old Trafford and it didn't rain at the Ageas Bowl, and vice versa. And there was an extraordinary test match to the Ageas Bowl, which when it didn't rain, but it was just so gloomy, they didn't get on for like a day and a half.
And that is the one test match. Before we were, as the umpires come together, I suppose it's to look at the ball. We were saying earlier about play not starting until 11 o'clock in that quite regimented English way. that was the one test match where the powers that be said, actually, there are no fans coming to this game.
Yes.
Their train tickets do not need changing. We will start at 10:30 as and when required. And they did a couple of days where bad light or rain stopped play. I think it might have been days 1 and 2. They got on half an hour earlier on days 3 and 4. So they did show some common sense there, but we're yet to kind of overcome that hurdle.
And of course the broadcasters didn't complain enormously because they were staying in the hotel. So that was the greatest commute I've ever had to a game of cricket. Was
yes, 4 doors down.
Walking out, yeah, it was superb. Yeah, I was even on the same floor.
Bouncer to finish, 120 for 6.
As the commentary box.
Yeah, I think when I was doing some games in there, the commentary box I was working in was at the Aegeus Bowl, was 4 doors down from my bedroom.
It's nice, isn't it?
Yeah, well, and I had one of the rooms looking out towards the ground as well, as opposed to because I had the opposite at Manchester when I was looking out towards the car park, and a number of my colleagues were looking out towards the ground, and that was a nice way to spend the week.
I watched Jimmy Anderson's 600th wicket from that balcony.
Oh, right, yes.
I wasn't on comms, but I was on I was on a break, you know, and it was great. It was a really good way of being able to keep up with the cricket. Actually, just sat on the balcony and watched it unfold.
And
not that I'm advocating for another pandemic.
Well, that was the year. I mean, correlation, causation, where we had the terrific spring, where this time of year it was just perfection.
And then it got a bit manky, didn't it?
It was the May Bank holiday weekend, the one we're coming up to next weekend, where Sky and the BBC did a full synced up rewatch of the 2005 Edgbaston Test match.
Oh, that's right.
And you and I were working furiously on the Calling the Shots documentary, so we had our head down all those 4 days working. But the weather, it was like mid to high 20s every day. It was like midsummer, as we were sort of watching telly or listening to radio from a Test match that finished some 15 years before. All felt a bit odd. Very enjoyable though.
Yeah. A nice cheap way of making programming that doesn't involve paying anyone who's desperate for work.
We were all getting quite resourceful, weren't we?
Ooh.
It's an adventurous single, knee up in the air. I remember do you remember when we pitched a daily show? We were going to make a daily program where we talk about the issues of the day, and then we kind of were knocked on the head when they're like, there'll be no issues of the day to talk about, fellas. We're not giving you that work. That's not a very good idea. I think it was Jimmy and Henry Moran came in with this great pitch. Oh, we'll do this, we'll do that. They're like, guys, you're kidding yourself.
Yeah, that's what we realised we had to do it all ourselves.
If you want to hear Calling the Shots, by the way, it's very much out there. Crude plug, well wide of the off stump. The 100 years of cricket broadcasting. We kind of fudged that because this year is the 100-year anniversary of when cricket broadcasting began.
We weren't going to wait for another pandemic.
No, you see it, you got to take it. We described it in the promos, 100 years of cricket broadcasting, and we made a 7-episode documentary, which we're very proud of, which includes interviews with some of the best to ever do it.
And also introduced me to Tommy Woodruff.
Oh, yes.
Ooh, what a man.
Oh, that's wafty. That's wafty to a ball that's really hooping. 54 overs in. Worrell can still get the Dukes to talk. Oh, we've got this little stat from Samo that we were after. Most catches in a match for Surrey against Hampshire, excluding wicketkeepers. Bobby Abel, 6 of them in 1898. And
Ollie Pope.
Pope's got 6 as well. Others do as well. Ricky Clark here at the Oval in 2021, and Jamie Overton at Southampton in 2023. So last round of the season last year is when Overton took his 6. So 1 more for Pope, and well, that's a record. Let's keep our eyes on that. Maybe this ball. That would have been great had it been that ball. That would have been a lovely.
That would have been gorgeous, wouldn't it?
That county champ Twitter handle, cut it up,
straight up.
The one that Ben Stokes picked Shah Bashir off.
Yeah.
So yeah, Bobby Abel at Portsmouth in 1898, for what it's worth. He was
a joint record though. It's a joint record.
Yeah, joint record. That's fine.
But he wants to go out on right at the top here. 1 more catch. No one likes joint records, no. And there must be quite a few joint records with catches. Too many. Yeah.
I'm still keen for the innings breakdown here, Samo. For an outfielder, 4 in an innings for Pope so far. I mean, I know there have been, as you said before, Stewart 7 and so on, but I want to know, as the over ends 1 run from it, 121 for 6, I want to know where, if Pope takes a 5th, where does that sit? Does that make it the most in an innings in those, did Abel, Clark or Overton take 4 or 5 at an innings, or were they split evenly? Or, these are the things that we need to know.
Yeah,
I
immediately.
want
them
only
here, and I want them now.
We've only had 5 runs out in half an hour.
Now.
This is a drifting kind of day. Stay with us on the Surrey stream. Who knows where we'll go? We're not going to do on Saturday when it was a bit quiet. We were talking about killing Nazis. We won't go there again. Or who knows? Maybe we will. I did watch the second part of that film, by the way, Daniel.
Oh yeah.
And as we foreshadowed, the Nazis lost.
They're always
Americans
losing.
won.
Every time I'm watching those films with Nazis in, they always seem to come off on the wrong side of it all.
They had this over-the-top Hitler character as well, who was who didn't speak, had no dialogue, but was looking at his stopwatch as they were rowing towards the end of the gold medal race.
Of course. What was it called?
It was called The Boys in the Boat.
The Boys in the Boat, right.
It's not going to win any Oscars. Very gentle Saturday, Sunday night viewing. Very, very, very gentle film. Right, who we got here? Thomas Forbes. Hey guys, absolutely loving the coverage. Well, we love you for that, Thomas. It might be a bit of a random question, but when Surrey play at home, do all the Surrey players stay in a hotel together for the duration of the match, or do they go to their homes after a day's play? That is a random question. I don't have a clue. I would have thought they go home. Let's find out.
Yeah, I think
there'll be someone in the other room with the screen available who can tell us what they do.
We're very lucky at Surrey to have some very good resources, but I do think that if you've got a flat in Clapham, then
go home.
Go home, yeah.
they do go home. That's been confirmed on the screen here.
They do go home.
I suppose
reasonable question.
When the hotel opens up across the road, which is I don't know when that
it's not open yet, no.
It's open now. Jake tells me at the back of the box, our director. Yeah. It's open now. I mean, that's where Hampshire is.
I've thought about asking Surtees for a run. I mean, anything to save me the grueling 19-minute trip from Tooting.
Right, before I leave commentary in a sec, I can tell you that Bobby Abel took 5 in that innings at Portsmouth in 1898. So that's the next one. The 5th catch is record-breaking on 2 fronts, and it'll be the most in a match for Pope, so keep an eye on that. Hotel's been open for 3 months, and there's no discount for Norcross.
Oh.
Should we treat ourselves and stay there one night?
Why not?
Stay across
Just
the road.
roll out of bed, straight in.
Oh, big in-swing. Still finds the outside edge. That's been a feature of Roach's spell, that he's been able to hoop the ball back towards the stumps. We've had one outside edge from Brown that nearly reached Pope at second slip when he was squared up, a beauty. Brown's been there for 56 balls for his 11. Okay. Hotels at cricket grounds.
Which is your favourite?
There's not that many to choose from.
There was a really delicious steak and peppercorn sauce at the Hilton at Old Trafford during the pandemic. I like that one.
And the Red Rose Sweet got to work out too, didn't it?
Oh, didn't it?
Oh, play and a miss to finish. No ball. Not to finish. She'll have to do it again. 2 runs added to the Hampshire tally, but there was a waft there too from Brown.
Can I ask you, because this is something that I've always been meaning to ask. The signal for no ball, is it stipulated which arm you've got to use?
Good question.
Or can you use either arm?
Just trying to think.
He
how
used the left arm there.
Yeah.
I'm a right arm no baller.
If you're holding the cat with the right hand though.
Yeah.
You can consider this with Yas Rana. 1 run here for Brown. He keeps the strike out to cover. He's 12, full as 2. 126 for 2. They trail by 82. They've added 10 runs this morning, but they have lost Liam Dawson along the way, who was caught by Pope from the bowling of Worrell for 18. And as Yas joins us, have a think about that. If you're holding the cat in the preferred hand, you'd probably use your non-preferred left if you're a right-hander. Or would you? Compare that over.
Similarly, we're signalling for. Like, whenever I've umpired, I've done really all the one-armed ones, like bye, 4, no ball, leg bye. I've always used my right hand, but it never occurred to me that there may be a stipulation. There probably isn't.
I don't think there is, Dan.
You think you can just do it with it? I suppose you'd have to, because otherwise it would discriminate against the one-armed umpire. Would that be true? Mind you, wides do that, don't they? Signals made while the ball is in play. Dead ball, yes, no ball, by extending one arm horizontally. That's all it says. Out by raising an index finger. Okay. Yeah, it looks like you can use either arm, and quite right too.
I feel like that would be the sort of detail if it was a rule.
Law.
Thank you, law. If that was a law, that's the sort of law that people would be very keen to tell you about. But I know this detail.
Yeah,
cricket
true.
fans love telling other cricket fans.
They do, don't they?
They know all the details.
Yes, actually, I saw a play which I can recommend. It's called Test Match. It's got certain things going for it at the Orange Tree in Richmond. But there was one thing that I nearly did go, laws, not rules, especially because of the context. I'll have to explain in a moment. Run's just a little bit easier to come by at the moment. So the play is it's a very unusual concept. It's set during a kind of fictional World Cup final between England and India's women.
So definitely not the one that actually happened.
Well, yeah, because
7 years ago.
Yes, because there's rain and they've got the wrong way around.
Okay.
So India are batting first
Yeah.
in it. So it's definitely not. But I suppose it's imagining an alternative World Cup final that happened around then between India and England's women. And then the second half is set in the East India Company, Kolkata, around 200 years before. And of course the satire is really on the sort of entitledness of Georgian capitalism, I suppose, and the exploitation of Bengali resources of indigo and poppy at the exclusion of food that results in famine. I mean, making it sound a bit drier than it is actually very funny in places. But as they're particularly satirising the way the English were wont to impose various rules on people, they were doing this while trying to work out the rules of cricket. And it sort of infuriated me because the point is made so much more strongly by being accurate here, because they're laws. And that is, the British didn't go in and impose rules, they imposed laws.
Well, there's another England-India women's ODI at Lords that maybe used to demonstrate the point of the play. Dipti Sharma,
Yes.
Charlie Dean.
That was one of the most extraordinary days of my commentating life, that. So I found myself on commentary when it happened, and there were a couple of summarisers who were not happy. Because I think you'll agree with me on this score.
Brown leaves the final delivery of the over alone, Hampshire 128 for 6.
I think journalists, broadcasters, and to a degree actually recreational players, are a lot more forgiving or even supportive of the run out at the non-strikers end on the basis that, drawn a line there. If we don't respect the line, then the game descends into chaos. But ex-professional and current professional cricketers seem to be almost unanimous in their disgust for it.
Roach gets one to jag back into Fuller.
So
He's briefly unaware of where the ball's gone, but
if you wonder what we're talking about, it was a terrific 10th wicket partnership between Charlie Dean and someone else, I forget the other end, was dragging England to a very unlikely victory when Dipti Sharma ran out Charlie Dean at the non-striker's end. She had been shown to have left her crease on something ridiculous like 30 odd occasions. Anyway, my summariser Alex Hartley was not happy. And I actually had to, because I could see she was fulminating with rage, and I thought, I need to protect you from yourself here. So I went into a lengthy explanation of why it didn't seem right or feel right, but was technically within the laws of the game and all that sort of thing. In order to just bring a bit of balance and allow her to decompress for a moment before articulating her feelings.
the reaction to that was extraordinary.
Wasn't it? Yeah.
I think the 2 points I'd make on it: one, I think the negative reaction from a lot of people, particularly in the UK, I think is based on, it is so ingrained in cricket coaching, or at least was 15, 20 years ago, your kids are told to back up. So it almost isn't explained as a potential dismissal. You're criticised as a kid for not backing up enough.
Yeah.
Which isn't in keeping with the laws of the game. Fuller rocks back inside, edges it into the leg side and picks up a single. I think the second point I'd make is a lot of people, so I'm pro run out the non-strikers end, but in this occasion a lot of people were pointing to Dean being out of her ground 30 times before. But I think, well, if the fielding side think it's a legitimate form of dismissal, why did they not do it the first 30 times when Dean was so far out of her ground? Why did you only do it
when it looked like England might get over the line? Yeah,
exactly. And I don't think India's reaction necessarily suggested they thought it was a totally legitimate form of taking wicket either.
It was Julian Goswami's last game as well.
Yeah. Left alone by Brown.
But my most vivid memory of that day, other than trying to ensure that Alex Hartley didn't go on a foul-mouthed tirade that might cut short her career, which we were successful in doing, was I saw what must have been a 9 or 10-year-old boy later on that evening with his mum, white English boy, blonde hair, outside the Lord's Tavern. We're waiting for a cab, and he was just sort of swinging on this lamppost.
Roach full into Brown, who flicks it into the leg side for a single.
And he was wearing a Dipti Sharma shirt. It was lovely, and he was blissfully unaware. He didn't mind. He hadn't ripped it off in outrage that his hero had disgraced herself. Not at all. He was happily sporting the Dipti Sharma shirt, which I thought was charming. I'm going to go. Cameron Ponsonby's in the house.
Hampshire 130 for 6. Surrey 4 wickets away from sealing their second consecutive Division 1 victory in an April where victories have been hard to come by. Dan Norcross has moved aside. Cam Ponsonby has taken his place. Morning, Cam.
Good morning, Yas.
It's been slow and steady progress from Hampshire this morning, although progress might be a bit of a push because they haven't really moved far.
I was going to say, I think Surrey would still be the happier of the two teams, both in general, of course, because of the match situation, but also how the morning has played out.
Change of bowling now. Gus Atkinson into the attack. A bit of a loosener first up, short and wide, and Brown doesn't miss out on that. Cuts it firmly to the deep point boundary. He picks up 4 and moves on to 18. That's the first boundary of Ben Brown's innings. Been at the crease for well over an hour. Yeah, gentle loosener from Atkinson. Bit of a wave movement, which he won't mind seeing.
I felt quite silly yesterday commentating on Atkinson. Just talking about how much he'd stopped kind of trying to swing the ball.
Short again, and this time Brown rocks back and pulls it in front of square on the leg side and picks up his second consecutive boundary. He moves on to 22. So no boundary for Brown in his first 75 minutes at the crease, and then 2 in a minute.
No, a loose start for Atkinson. 2 short deliveries, 1 straight, 1 wide, both of which have been put away to the boundary. But yesterday he bowled a fantastic spell, which ultimately ended up with the wicket of Tom Prest. And I was explaining how Atkinson is kind of the modern bowler who used to try and bowl the away swinger and now just looks for that wobble seam. Then he proceeded to get so much movement through the air yesterday. It was really remarkable.
It's better from Atkinson, slightly fuller, and Brown defends into the leg side. It's a really interesting point, I think, on Atkinson, because he's one of this group of young English bowlers that England have identified as having the potential to bowl faster. And I think in England, because we don't necessarily produce that many quick bowlers, I think sometimes English cricket can get carried away about how these guys should be used. You almost fixate on their speed and then deploy them as short ball or brief appeal from the slip cordon, but no reaction at all from Atkinson, probably. So inside edge on that one. Do you see what I'm saying? Sometimes I think when there's an English bowler who bowls 85 mile per hour plus, suddenly all they do is bowl short, men out. When actually, and I think Rob Key made this point in a recent interview, Brown lets that one go. Actually, you look at Australia, Pat Cummins bowls 85 to 90 miles per hour. He doesn't bowl like the way Mark Wood is sometimes used to. I know they're different sorts of bowlers, Pat Cummins generally keeps it pretty simple and just does what normal bowlers do and try to do, but just quicker than most bowlers, right?
There was a short-lived kind of animation that Sky used to use in their coverage.
And Brown defends the final delivery of the over. 8 from it. Hampshire 138 for 6, trailing Surrey by 70.
And it used to really make me laugh because it was called like the weak zone or the red zone or the danger zone or some words to that effect of each batter as they'd come in. And it'd be like a heat map. And invariably, just on the top of off stump was the kind of this dark red colour. It was like, they don't like it around kind of top of off stump, fourth stump. I was like, that shocks me. And it goes back to that theory of like, yes, if you could make a case that if England had a bowler of the pace of Pat Cummins, it may be a case of, this bowler doesn't have to swing the ball and they can bowl that middle overs enforcer role, which Atkinson has been kind of dubbed as the potential use for, whether he was bowling in England or away from home. But I think yesterday Atkinson would have been very pleased to show that kind of more traditional side to his skill set, where he was just bowling kind of beautiful away swingers that we'd more associate with kind of Matthew Hoggard and cricket 20 years ago.
Another bowling change for Surrey. Jordan Clark into the attack.
I think the next iteration of the seamer's skill set, and you just heard Stuart Broad talking about towards the end of his career, and Anderson's just started to mention it as well, is that the beauty of the wobble seam delivery is that people don't know which way it's going to seam off the pitch. Broad and Anderson are just getting to the point where they were saying, we think we can generally get one to move in the direction we want to. It doesn't always happen, but there's an element of control over the mystery.
Driven firmly to mid-off. I wonder how much that is using new terminology to describe things that have always existed in a bowler's armoury. So when they say they're using the wobble swing ball, and they can choose in which direction it's going in, how different is that functionally to an old school
like
off-cutter?
I think it's
because in the famous some of the more famous 2005 Ashes commentary, when Andrew Flintoff dismisses Justin Langer in the second innings at Edgbaston, driven down the ground by Fuller, but that's well covered by Kemar Roach at mid-on. Richie Beno describes the ball that dismisses Langer by Flintoff as a leg cutter.
Yeah.
And I wonder how different is that ball, because it wasn't a leg cutter in the modern sense of it being a slower ball. It's a leg cutter in that it has moved from off to leg.
I think the change that's happened, I don't think I'm talking nonsense here, but it is possible.
In towards Fuller's body, and they'll pick up a single, just waiting for the umpire signal. Yeah, a leg by.
Is that it's been a kind of knowing move away from perfection. So if you think of when a seamer is typically said to have the perfect seam position, they're ripping their hands down the back of the ball and it's kind of rotating perfectly and the ball can swing. And if someone has like a dirty seam, that's where the seam's wobbling, and it's being able to control that area of kind of imperfection, and that's what people are doing now in a way that previously it might have been, the wobble seam might have been an accidental delivery. You're knowingly trying not to be perfect because the imperfect result is the one you want, basically. And that's where the debate and the kind of argument that almost broke out a couple of years ago with batters batting on off stump and kind of the likes of kind of Butcher on Sky and Ollie Pope kind of going kind of head to head in a generational debate basically came from, is that you had the older generation who'd see the ball out the hand swinging away, so you can leave that alone, and you had the new generation going like, we don't know where the ball's going to go, so we're having to get across.
Down the leg side, Brown plays and misses, and that's the end of Jordan Clark's over. A maiden over, but 1 run to the Hampshire score, a leg by off James Fuller's thigh pad.
I found that one of the more kind of interesting, not even a case of like the actual subject matter in terms of I can't say I did find the idea of batters batting on off stump versus middle stump that fascinating, so kind of I wasn't staying up at night, but it was a very rare case of where the kind of generational divide between players was apparent. It was one of the very few times where an elder generation were kind of actively saying they thought something was wrong, as opposed to just kind of turning your nose up at it and going like, this doesn't feel right. It was like, this is an incorrect method of batting.
Yeah, I think the whole discussion had to be contextualised by what had happened in the previous 3 or 4 years to batters. They were low-scoring years. You know, Alistair Cook talked about the end of his Test career being the hardest time to bat for an English opener across his 13, 14-year Test career. There were some really low-scoring just seasons. You know, if you looked at the run-scoring charts in Division 1, there's not that many guys actually averaged over 50. Got him! Caught the second attempt, and Atkinson picks up his second wicket. James Fuller prodding at one just outside off stump. And Surrey now just 3 wickets away from sealing their second county championship win of 2024.
A sharp catch eventually by Dan Lawrence, who had a couple of goes at it. Atkinson had one dropped off his bowling yesterday by Ollie Pope. This time he was able to wheel away in celebration, just back of a length. And Fuller press.
It's a good take at the second attempt.
Well, it's come off. I think it's actually at his third attempt. We see here it kind of goes into his stomach, and he has a nice little keepy up with his thigh, and is able to grab on at the third attempt. Surrey, or Hampshire even 139 for 7. Surrey 3 wickets away from victory.
Yeah, those morning games of football paying off there for Dan Lawrence and Surrey. And really seeing the sort of weapons that Atkinson has that not that many county bowlers do possess. That ball getting a little bit big on James Fuller, who looks solid. Was at the crease for over half an hour, only scored 4 runs, but defended resolutely. And Atkinson, bowling his second over of the morning, picks up the wicket off Fuller, and now Surrey just 3 wickets away from getting that second Division 1 victory of the season.
As you said, Atkinson will be very... Yeah, I think in this, across the last 24 hours, we've taken his one spell from yesterday. We're kind of seeing the various styles of bowling that are possible, and it goes back into your... we've had the situation where both parties would probably think they're correct. I think if you're England looking at that, you go, that's the bowler we want. Kind of back of a length, high pace, able to take the shoulder of a batter, nick someone off with the ball 59 overs old. From the other opinion would be he can still bowl the away swinger. Forgotten how to speak in the last 20 seconds. Bowl the away swinger, take the outside edge of Tom Prest in a more conventional manner with the moving ball. I think Atkinson will just be quite pleased to have done all of the above.
Kyle Abbott in at 9 for Hampshire as a man moves into forward short leg. Oh, short again from Atkinson. It's exactly what Cam Ponsonby is talking about. It says 67 miles per hour on the speed gun, but I can assure you folks that was much, much quicker than that. Take a look at that replay. Really hurried Abbott. That is nasty stuff, and he very, very nearly trods on his stumps, and that in fact does well not to.
It's a really positive trigger movement from Abbott there. He's moving his head towards the ball, and the ball moved towards him pretty quickly.
And Fuller from Atkinson. Abbott leaving on this occasion. But yeah, no real subtlety from Surrey in terms of what they're planning. Abbott comes to the crease, and straight away a man is moved into a forward short leg position, and they're saying to Abbott, you know, go on, you can take the hook on. There is no one at deep square leg. There's a man at a conventional fine leg. Fuller again, and you see it's not just about, with the short delivery, it's not just about taking the wicket with the short delivery. Once you plant the seed in the batter's head that may be coming, you know, their balance changes a little bit. They rock back, they're slower to defend forward.
He's not played this season, but Keith Barker, I remember he came out to bat for Hampshire in this fixture last year, and Will Jacks was in the commentary box here on the live stream.
Fuller again, and this time it's defended into the leg side. And Atkinson completes an excellent wicket maiden. Took the wicket of James Fuller. Very nearly had the wicket of Carl Abbott first ball. And Atkinson now 2 for 22 off 10 overs.
And as soon as Keith Barker came out to bat, Rory Burns signalled for the helmet. There was a man under the lid at short leg. There was 2 out on the hook. And Will Jacks went, oh yeah, we always do this to him. I went, what a horrible existence. If you've got the reputation of not liking the short ball, and every week you have to go out to bat, and you know you're going to get peppered. Let's go back to the conversation, your point about the context of the batting on off-stump debate has to be in the context of those low scores that had happened for the 4 years previously.
Brown fends that away into the leg side, picks up a single.
Was that you had the generation who was playing, you have to try something to find out if it's the wrong answer, and that's what happened. You see players now, Holly Pope went away from that off-stump guard, and he's since said, he's like, yeah, it wasn't working for me. But you had one generation who had played, and they went, that's not going to work. And you had the other players generation who were there, were like, well, we have to try something. We can't know this is the wrong answer until we give it a go. And as it turned out, the answer was kind of the status quo that existed beforehand.
Abbott jabs that one away to the man at deep third, gets off the mark. Yeah, and you know, at the time players were being picked for England who had records that weren't extraordinary, and you know, you can't underestimate what the effect of those few seasons would have had on the mindset of batters individually and more generally.
Damn, we're all adopting the underarm throw then there from the boundary. If you were wondering how short it was down to that fine leg area, it was a wonderfully tame piece of fielding. I enjoyed it very much.
No short leg in for Abbott of the bowling of Clark, more conventional field. Although Clark serves him up a bumper first up. Clear ploy from Surrey early to Carl Abbott.
We're also 3 wickets away from Surrey completing a victory without the bowler who was the leading wicket taker in the county championship going into this round, turning his arm over once. Just the 4 bowlers on show across the match for Surrey. None of Patel, Lawrence or Cameron Steele getting the opportunity.
Short again, but defended well by Carl Abbott. Now, it's interesting comparing the Surrey attack and how they go about taking 20 wickets in a match compared to Essex, the other fast starters in 2024. Essex genuinely have the same guys who play every week: Cook, Porter, Snater and Harmer. And you've got the leggies of Matt Critchley in there as well. Surrey have a slightly bigger pool of bowlers that they draw from.
Just seen a change of field for that last delivery to Abbott. It's the 3rd slip. Dan Lawrence moved to a leg slip. Clark bowling slightly straighter to Abbott. Abbott has a good first-class record with the bats for a tail end, average of 18 for 12 half-centuries. End of the 61st over, it's 142 for 7. Ben Brown on 23 off 75 and Abbott on 1 off 8. One would imagine it's Atkinson to continue, and one would imagine correctly. Let's see.
If you look at Surrey's bowling this season, in that opening game, Dan Lawrence bowled more than he ever had in any previous first-class game, and that was early April, albeit with a Kookaburra ball. Tom Law's not playing this round, England Lions bowler. Brown knocks that into the leg side. Briefly thought about 2, but that was very much not on. It brings Abbott back on strike as we see Surrey make a couple of changes to the field for the Hampshire number 9. Ryan Patel moves out the offside and into a forward short leg.
Jordan Clark moving in from the boundary, so there's just one fielder on the boundary on the leg side for Surrey. It's Keemore Roach down at fine leg. Atkinson just stops in his run up again. Not for the first time this innings.
Fuller from Atkinson, and then Abbott gets himself off strike.
There really is. The two fields visually to the two batters aren't that different, but there is a flurry of movement every time the batters change ends. It's 6-3 to both parties. Just for Ben Brown at this end, we have two fielders on the boundary. Jordan Clark drops out to deep square leg, and Ryan Patel goes back to point from short leg.
Oh, short from Atkinson, change of field, but same strategy, and Brown attempts a pull shot. A different sort of pull shot than the one he played a few overs ago, and gratefully gets nothing on it as it flies on through to Jamie Smith behind the stumps. Short again, and that one flies away to the boundary.
So a no ball has been signalled, but so has byes, which has confused me a little bit there. That seems a bit of a loophole there, because of course there can be byes. Oh, you know what? I'm going to need to get the law book out here because my brain's hurting. I know it's 6 runs. But obviously, if it's wides, so I'm having a conversation with Andrew Samson, who's not mic'd up. So the listeners are gonna have to enjoy one half of it. If it was to be a wide, 5 wides given, that is not 1 wide and 4 byes. It's one of my greatest pet peeves of all history, actually. So why would it be that 2 no balls and then the 4 byes is still credited against Jamie Smith? Why does Atkinson not incur all of the penalty there for 6 no balls?
But is it a no ball for 2 balls above shoulder height in the over?
Even so. It's another no ball. Atkinson bowls here, so I think he's overstepped there. My only contention was whether it had been given a no ball for it being overhead height. If you do have the answer, please do get in contact at surreybroadcast@gmail.com. I'm on for the next 19 minutes, so you have that much time to get me an answer immediately, please. I just saw the Google Docs page flying into action that tells us information. I thought it was going to give me an answer, and it wasn't. It was telling Yas something.
Back of a length from Atkinson, and more comfortably defended by Ben Brown.
Oh goodness, I'm going to have to work something out on air, which you never want to do. You always want to have the answer. I'm not best pleased with this no balls by scenario.
Full from Atkinson, and Ben Brown pinches a quick single. He moves on to 25. Hampshire 153 for 7, a change in the commentary box. I'm taking a breather. Adam Collins will be replacing me. And between overs, we'll quickly take a look at the 2 Hampshire wickets to fall this morning.
First to go was Liam Dawson. Well caught by Ollie Pope in the slip to his 4th catch of the innings. And it was James Fuller. A similar-ish dismissal, just being forced back by Gus Atkinson and caught on the 3rd attempt by Dan Lawrence. Adam Collins sits down next to me to join a very heated debate within myself about why those 2 no balls weren't 6 no balls against Atkinson. I can see by the look of fear in his face he doesn't want any of it.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. Where have you landed? What's your overarching?
My overarching response has been to call for help to the general public. Because of course if it was a no ball and it was to kind of flick the pad on the way through, that would be leg byes and no balls. But I think I'm getting my wides and no balls confused. It's a very embarrassing and emasculating moment for me live on air to not be across the minutiae of cricket.
It happens It happens. Just roll with it. You'll be okay. That point of difference with Atkinson, isn't it? That previous dismissal. By the way, so the radar there, 41 mile an hour? I don't think so. I think that might be on a bit on the slow side today. It was reporting Worrell in the low 60s at the start of his spell, which clearly couldn't have been accurate.
I thought Clark just rolled his fingers over that one, actually.
But 40 mile an hour? 40 mile an hour is like, that's Poonam Yadav's leg breaks, who was famously a very slow leg spin bowler for the Indian women's side until a couple of years ago. Very effective as well. 1 foot off the ground, adventurous. 2-man back for that stroke though. Trailing by 54. So we said at the start of play, Cam, they needed, well, Norcross and I were saying that they needed to be losing no wickets and being at parity by lunch to really be in the frame to save. But look, it may well be that this pair can bat for a number of hours and do it anyway, but they have to try and get to that making Surrey bat again place before they can start to devise scenarios and all the rest. Abbott made 10 in the first innings. Yeah, no balls being worth 2. That's something that's gone in and out of fashion. I'm sure Andrew Samson can add to this. Just in England at the moment. For a time it was 2 in the Sheffield Shield as well. Mentioned to Samo the other day, there was a Shield game decided by a front foot no ball that was worth 2 runs many years ago, about 30 years ago. Up-ish, doesn't quite get there. In the end, a great stop over to his left roach. Took 2 excellent catches in the first innings, having to come forward, in off the rope in front of the short boundary.
Judging by the reaction from a number of Surrey players, I don't know if they were just particularly impressed with Roach's athleticism. This was a catching opportunity.
Oh, yeah, he did get the left mitt to it, didn't he? But the fact that he got there in the first place.
Just the way the ball reacted, I assumed that Abbott had kind of flung that ball into the ground, stabbed that ball into the ground. As it happened, Roach had a chance for an absolute spectacular catch there.
Shot. Nice response from the number 9 out to the boundary. Haven't seen many of them this morning. 158 for 7 the score. Email in from Jeff in relation to no balls, which I've managed to clumsily remove from my screen. Completes the over. The boundary as well. Let's see if I can recover the situation.
See a replay there of Abbott's cut away for 4 through the vacant point area. The score moves on to 158 for 7. Have you got the email up?
Yeah, I do now. The umpire has to signal buys, otherwise the scorer wouldn't know if the batsman had hit it. They are all no balls in the book, though.
Thank you very much, Jeff. That I feel vindicated. I feel like vindicated, and also that I've learned. I also see Andrew Samson looking quizzically at this as to whether this was actually a correct answer from Jeff. The game's in disrepute.
Samo's shaking his head. This is a teaching hospital here at the Surrey Stream. It's okay. Atkinson away from us, Vauxhall End. So much now hinges on Brown for Hampshire, who, by the way, have lost a couple of points in this match for their over rate. So there's an extra point to all of this. They need to bowl a second time to get out of trouble with their over rate. We've already seen once this year a side declare, it was Yorkshire, wasn't it, in round 1, where they declared at an unusual time in order to improve their over rate, when otherwise they may not have done so. It was when Harry Brook made his 100 round the corner, just one. So that's something to keep an eye on later today. Potentially, is that it's very unlikely, I acknowledge, but Hampshire might get to a point in the game, very unlikely, where, well, we're drifting towards 5 o'clock handshakes or something, and they might pull out and go, actually, we want to bowl a few overs here and get through them. I was looking at a scorecard through the Final Word podcast the other day, where Middlesex did this in a game against Northants in 2019, where they bowled 7 overs in like 12 minutes at the end of a game, and Northants played along and didn't smack them all over the park, where Owen Morgan bowled 3 overs to open. Oh, that's sharp from Atkinson. Abbott just getting the gloves and the helmet out of the way. Because that's a factor. 2 points lost to over rates in the first innings. That's not for nothing at all from Hampshire's perspective. So another little marker on the way through as to why it's crucial that they get to make Surrey bat this second time.
How many overs behind their rate do they have to be to lose 2 points?
I wish I asked that question as well in hindsight. Got half the answer. A waft. Should have been leaving it, but again, Atkinson's just on you, isn't he?
You've been a victim of your own intelligence and knowledge there, Adam. I assumed you'd have been across every detail of that.
Just gathering intel downstairs from our colleagues in the press and so on.
It's been another fine spell from Atkinson, who started. His first 2 deliveries were both hit to the boundary, one on the offside, one on the leg side. But since then, he's hardly missed a beat.
Rides the bounce there. Yeah, it would present an interesting situation if we get that deep. Again, I'm not overplaying how likely it is, but if Surrey are at a point where they can't chase the runs in time, but they're asked to bat a second time, whether they would play along and, you know, behave, or whether they would try and plonk some balls into the Galadari and damage the over rate yet further. Probably the latter.
Absolutely.
Marginal gains and all the rest. They're not going to.
What if you're playing for points?
Yeah,
that's the entire purpose of the sport,
yeah,
of the league. So if you have a chance to further dent your opponent's chances,
especially a rival in the division, you'd think that Hampshire, despite having not won a game this year, they will find their groove at some point. They won as many games as Surrey did, both in 2022 and 2023. It was the peripheral points that put them back in both years. The batting points weren't quite there, where Surrey were pretty consistent in acquiring theirs all the way through. Essex likewise. Might get a little score update from Essex while we are thinking about other games. So they're in the lead now by 21. Clark's new over starts with a defensive prod from Brown. So Durham 358, no play on day 3. Essex started about 30 odd behind, and they're now 21 in the lead, 379 for 5, and Nick Brown's 133. He's batting with Noah Thane. 3 wickets for Callum Parkinson. So it doesn't look likely. It would require something pretty special from there. And looking at the batting point situation, we're beyond that point. So they would have reached 350, but they're 4 overs past the 110 over mark, so they can't get the 4th batting point for 400. My apologies. So if Essex really went for it, it's within the realm's possibility, I suppose. They could have something to bowl to later today, but a lot would need to go right, which should be an extra plus for Surrey. If they can get full points here, it'll mean that both Surrey and Essex have 2 wins apiece going into the bank holiday Monday, where fewer teams are playing next week.
Can I talk about the no ball again?
Please, be my guest.
So
what's your main main issue with this?
I think we've come across a very small and very admittedly unimportant loophole problem with the game. So if it, for instance, was a no ball and the ball gets hit through the covers for 4, that's fine. It's a no ball plus runs to the batter. If it takes the pad and it goes off its leg byes and the no ball.
Easy single.
The issue we have is we already have a little quirk in the rules where if the ball is over a batter's head,
it's a no-y.
It is given as a no ball rather than a wide, because the idea is that the batter can still play at the delivery. But in effect, it's a no ball, not a wide, because that batter still has the opportunity to swing at the ball. It's not completely out of reach. However, if it's the no ball because it's over the head height, it is in effect given as such because it is an unplayed delivery. It's too wide. Appreciate Carl Abbott blocking this out so I can carry on talking. Had it been as it previously was, a wide if it was overhead height rather than no ball, I think that used to be the case. It would be 5 wides if it beats the keeper as well.
Yep.
But because they've changed that rule to allow the batter to still have a swing at it, even though it's out of reach for the batter, out of reach for the wicket keeper, it's given as no ball and byes rather than.
So 6 instead of 5.
Yes, but it's a quirk in that it's out of reach for all the other participants. It's a bowler error, but it's credited against the wicketkeeper.
Right. It's a fair point. You do occasionally see that, don't you, where it goes against the keeper when in any other circumstance it'd be seen as wides and not go against their card. 1 run from the over, 160 for 7. I wonder why it did go from wides to no balls for above the shoulder, because I'm looking over at Andrew Samson for confirmation of this. I don't believe it's that way in Test cricket, is it? So in Test cricket, a playing condition in England, yeah. If you're watching the same scenario playing out in a Test match, it would be 5 wides.
Yeah.
So why is it that in England we've agreed that it's a no ball? There must be a reason for it. All of these things happen.
I think I know the reason.
Okay. Atkinson away from us.
And it would be because you're allowed 2 for the over, in effect. So you're allowed 2 balls above the shoulder and over. If you bowl a third ball in that over, that is going to hit someone in the face. That person is still going to want to play a shot at that. And if they successfully play a shot at that, that can't be given as a wide because they've hit the ball. So it has to be a no ball.
But they count them anyway, don't they? Don't umpires at Test level count the above shoulder balls even when it is a wide? I think they do.
But
so I'm not sure whether that's the effect of making it a no ball, whether that necessarily changes the 2 above shoulder height count the umpire's got going on.
But it would have to be. No, but that's the point. Say, for instance, you're an opening bowler and you bowl 2 balls. Your first 2 balls of the over were short balls of the over were balls number 1 and 2. And balls
dream.
number 3.
2 bumpers, first 2 balls. Turn the clock back here.
2 bumpers, first 2 balls, and the third ball you bowl a third bouncer, and it would strike the batter in the head.
Right.
You can't wide it because it's hit the batter. So there has to be that bowler has to be able to be penalised in some way. So it's a no ball, not a wide.
Yeah, but I think that's fine. I think all these things can be consistent. I'll paint another scenario to you. Oh, beating the bat, Atkinson. Wheels on that line where Abbott has to play, and it just stands up off the seam. Those first 2 balls you referred to, they've gone way above the batter's head. They're 2 horrible bounces. They've been called wides. Right? The third ball of the over is the more accurate bouncer, and it hits the batter in the grill or whatever it is. I think that it reverts to no ball at that point. I think the wides above the head, in much the same way if there was a third bumper that went above the helmet, I'd still call that a wide as well. It only becomes a no ball, nicely steered, where you enter that penalty territory. That'd be my interpretation of how it works at Test level. Not that any umpire calls a no ball for the third bumper, by the way. Phil Walker and I were lamenting this yesterday, that bowlers get away with bowling far more than 2 balls and over above shoulder height at Test level. Umpires police that in a very lax way. Certainly when the bumper wars are going on, we saw last year at Lords where both teams were bowling bumpers for an entire session, and I don't think we saw a third short ball, no ball called at all.
I think it'd be one of the great shames on directions of cricket if the numbers go to prove that that is the best way to bowl at other teams.
I think we've learnt that with tail enders it is, haven't we? The CricViz guys are certain of it.
Well, I'd love to know if they have those numbers to hand or can prove it, because in effect restricts it reduces the size of the field by 3 quarters. Batters can only hit the ball in one direction.
Ooh, not far away. Ends the over, 2 runs from it. We'll just break from our conversation to pop up a little graphic on the screen showing the most catches for Surrey in a first-class match. This is relevant because Ollie Pope has been very, very busy. He's taken 6 in this match so far. He's 1 away from rarefied air. These are for outfielders, of course. Doesn't include wicket keepers, but Lock 8 here at the Oval in 1957 and 7 at Old Trafford in 1953. I wonder how many of those were off Laker. Most of them, I suspect. Stuart Surridge, the captain through that period, 1955. Mickey Stewart, 7, famously, against Northampton in 57, and Graham Thorpe in 1998. On the hook, all eyes were looking up for a top edge, but he kept it down nicely there. Abbott to start the new over. So Pope's taken 6 in the match, 4 in this inning, so we'll keep an eye on that. Yes, I think from the analysts, and I'm paraphrasing many conversations here, there's always criticism of fast bowlers bowling short at tail enders in the wider debate. You know, why don't you just bowl Yorkers at the stumps? That's the framework of the conversation, especially when a number 11 gets away and hits a few sixes. Jasprit Bumrah at Edgbaston a couple of years ago. Amir Jamal at Sydney earlier this year, where they put on sort of 60 odd for the 10th wicket, and the Australian fast bowlers were copping it. Just bowl at the guy's stumps, you'll knock him out of the ground, you're too good for this rubbish. But the data says that bowling short at numbers 9, 10 and 11 is far more effective than bowling at the stumps when you take the average where the ball lands, which is why, you might get away occasionally against the short stuff, but taken as a whole, it works better. So that's why we're seeing more and more of it at test level when they reach a point in the game where they want to test the patience of a batting side. They're more comfortable pulling that lever. It's not pretty. It can make for some really dull cricket, but still, we saw at Lords last year, so many wickets fell that way.
Absolutely, and I think that's fine. If there's a moment in an innings where a flip switches, that's fine, because again, it's a moment of kind of contextual change. If it came to the fore that actually bowling at your top 6, the best way to do is just to bowl at someone's chest for 6 balls. Well, it happened 100 years ago.
Guess it did. That was quite effective. Required a change to the laws of the game and a diplomatic crisis. Yes, it's an unusual part of modern cricket because it doesn't tend to be the fastest bouncer bowlers who are most effective at it. Upish, but no one a gully. Had there been a gully, it would have been straight down his throat. Abbott's 7 from 24 now. So if you're looking at the Australian bowling lineup, and I said to you, face value, who'd be the best at that? Logic would be, Cummins and Stark, right? The two quickest in the team. It's Hazelwood's got the best numbers with it, the third quickest in that trio. And for England, Ollie Robinson. He's done best out of, and he bowls bounces at that sort of high 70s or even mid 70s. But pace off can be as difficult because it does tempt batters into shots that they may not otherwise play. Upish, but enough of a gap to get a single to the short rope where Patel does the fielding.
Of course, if there's less pace on the ball, that top edge that would fly for 6 potentially flies into the hands of a fielder instead.
Yeah.
That just early in that innings, that over when Ben Brown got kind of thickish edge down to deep third at the end of the 67th over, 66th over even, 165 for 7. Ben Brown on 30 off 96, Carl Abbott on 8 off 25. It was the second time we saw it yesterday, press wicket as well, where the ball just seems to have held in the wickets a little bit, and it almost kind of balloons off the outside edge of the batter, and the ball kind of goes up and kind of spins away. I don't know whether it's necessarily been a theme of the pitch. You can't particularly point to a match where Surrey scored 300 and plenty and called it a very difficult batting wicket, but there have been moments where that ball just has stuck a little bit more than people would be expecting. We may have even seen it with Abbott's chip into the leg side later in that over as well.
So a short leg for Worrell. Back into the attack, Vauxhall end. Short right away, deflected to Lawrence. Worrell, who's been taking his wickets conventionally through the match, 4 caught at second slip by Pope, but happy to play along as well. Now they know they've got to this stage of the game where bowling short at Abbott. Got a nice little package that will pull up at the end of the over of the way Abbott's played the short ball so far.
I remember chatting to an analyst at a county a couple of years ago. He was saying that his job, the task he'd found for himself, was over the last however many years to find out where the catches and the slips actually go to at their home ground.
Edged, and it's Pope again! 7th for the match at second slip. Worrell has a 4th. Abbott's gone for 8, 165 for 8. Hampshire 2 wickets away from an innings loss. They're still 43 in the red. Worrell's been outstanding. Back into the attack. In the book again with his second ball. And nobody has taken more catches in these Surrey-Hampshire clashes over the years now than Ollie Pope. 7 in the match, 5 in the innings. There's still 2 to go, Cam Ponsonby.
We were just talking about, you referred there to Dan Worrell taking his wickets conventionally. You and Ollie Pope performed quite the partnership in this match. See again, the ball just leaving Carl Abbott, potentially even holding its line. It's another smart catch by Ollie Pope, who's been so good with his fingers pointing down, catching to his low, to his right or his left. It's his 5th off Worrell for the match. That must be a record of some sort, Andrew Samson, in terms of a partnership. It equals the Surrey record. I just have a feel for these things.
We're all over this. So that is Bobby Abel took 5 catches in an innings against Hampshire in 1898. Now Pope's done it here, and there's still 2 to go. Samo had us purring away on that earlier today when he took his 4th catch, but still 2 to go. And who would doubt it, the way that Worrell's bowling? He's feeding second slip, has done in both innings. And this could end quickly here. Brad Wheel walking out at number 10 for the visitors.
Just before I give away to Katya, who's arrived, it's relevant to the Worrell-Pope combination, comes to the fore again. But the analyst was going back through all the footage of his county's fixtures over the past 4 or 5 years and trying to work out where the slip catches went to. Did it go to first? Did it go to second? To work out if you can actually, if for instance all your slip catches tend to go to second and third, can you get rid of first slip and you can use that fielder in a different position? With that, I'll leave you be.
That's exactly what Daniel was talking about earlier today. Less about where they were staggered, but how far they come up on different grounds. So you and he can go at the back and have a chat about what you've learnt, about what he's keen to learn. Katya Witney jumping in from Wisden.com, award-winning journalist over the road there in the Bedser stand. Morning to you.
Hi Adam, how are you?
Couldn't be better. 2 to go here. Worrell 4 for 35. And Wheel off the mark, first ball to long leg. 7 for the match. He missed the first 2 rounds with that neck injury. He's just born to bowl in England, isn't he? Especially with the Dukes.
Yeah, I think he's one of the best on the circuit at the minute. Qualifies to play for England next year, doesn't he?
This year, I think.
This year.
Yep.
That'll be interesting.
Yeah, we were sort of speculating yesterday. Phil Walker made a good point. He goes, it may not feel right having someone so expressly Australian walking into the England Test team, and whether I think Phil's words were, we've got plenty of 80-mile-an-hour bowlers that do okay with the Dukes, but he wasn't talking Worrell down either. I hasten to add, he was just making the point that yes, Worrell is pretty Australian compared to others who might have come to England as younger fellas and tried to make their way. Worrell now 32. Deep point goes back for Brown, so gifting him the single if he wants it. Deep backward point, 4 back all told. Little tempter.
Yeah, I was debating if I'd actually be over here talking to you about half an hour ago. Thought the game might be over by now, but I've stuck it out a bit. But you feel like it's imminent now.
Yes, it was only ever going to be a case of seeing the back of Dawson or Brown to open up one end effectively for the more recognised bowlers. Not to talk Fuller down at all, he batted well in the first innings, but that pacier delivery from Atkinson wasn't able to keep it down.
Yeah, I was thinking yesterday when I was up in the office when they came out to play yesterday evening, and you were thinking if you were a Hampshire player.
Ooh. Loose.
Yeah, you'd so much rather that whole day have been washed out, come back and bat the day out today. But those wickets they lost yesterday evening have really done it for them.
Yeah, Gubbins, Preston, Vince, and with the latter 2 both falling on 87, not long before the close, it just made it that much harder today. Just on that previous ball to Brown, he tried to flay it through the offside, so feels like his attitude's changed after being in for a couple of hours, that batting with the tail he's going to try and make them as quickly as he can. Still 2 slips to the gully, last ball. Squares him up nicely, gets Wheel back on strike. Successful over for Dan Worrell, 166 for 8. Hampshire trailing by 42. Get a quick look here at the short stuff to Abbott, eventually caught in the cordon, but boy, he got a working over from Gus Atkinson. Yuck. That is nasty, nasty stuff. From the moment that Abbott came in, Atkinson was sending him through, and that's what sets him apart in the Surrey attack.
I was listening to a bit of your conversation with Cam before I came on air about bowling the short stuff to the tail enders, and I was wondering whether there probably isn't a proper bunny filter in a stats machine, but how effective that is at proper tail enders versus someone like Abbott who can hold a bat and hold his own with a bat, and whether bowling at the stumps for people who have an average of less than, say, 12 is more effective than tail enders who average, say, between that 15 and 20 region.
It's a fair point. I suppose in saying that, Bumrah's average is in single digits, and he's the guy that took 35 off Broads over at Edgbaston a couple of years back. Nice little stat here from Samo. Dan Worrell now has 100 first-class wickets for Surrey at 22.6 in 24 matches. That is great going.
That's a lot of wickets.
Arrived here at the start of the 2022 campaign after a stint with Gloucestershire. Finished up with South Australia, decided to be a full-timer here in London. It's working out beautifully. 2 championships and a chance to do it again this year. Short from Clark as well to wheel, so we can expect this to be a bit of a theme of what's to come. Saw Cameron Steele bowling a ball back out to mid-off. He's a decent chance of going through this game without getting a trundle.
Yeah, you wouldn't have thought that with the first couple of games of Surrey's campaign.
20 wickets at 12 he's got, doesn't he?
Yeah, a lot of wickets.
Yeah. It's felt like, oh, it's a nice shot. I thought that was going to mid-wicket, but no, it's not. Brad Wheel times it through the square leg region for a boundary. His first, 166 for 8. Make that 170 for 8 as it ticks over here. 38 away from making Surrey bat a second time. Nice and compact out the middle of the bat. But yes, it feels like the last 3 days, Katya, this has been more what we've been conditioned to at the Oval. Morning one, bowl first, Duke's ball, brown kind of looking pitch, bit of grass on it. 2022 and 2023, a lot of games played out this way.
But I feel like the first few games of this championship for Surrey have really shown exactly why they are so good. Like in the first couple of rounds when you had the Kookaburra ball and the spinners were taking wickets, while they haven't had much of a spin contingent last season, it really kind of showed how they adapt to conditions, and that's what makes a good side into a great side, is that you adapt to conditions and you find a way to win. And while this is what we're used to seeing at the Oval and from Surrey, when conditions are against this kind of cricket, they're still able to find ways to win, which we saw in the first couple of rounds.
Inside part of the bat. Want one, and they're going to just go back to where they started with 1 ball left in the over. Brown's going to try and retain the strike. And that will be the end of the over, and it'll be Yas Rana jumping in for me, and he's going to have a hell of a stat from Andrew Samson to read out in a minute as well. It's just gone up on the screen in relation to Ollie Pope. Yas and Katya taking you through to lunch.
So we've been on Ollie Pope catch watch this morning. I've got another gem of a stat for you. So Ollie Pope, with 5 catches in this match off Dan Worrell, has equalled the Surrey record for the most catches off a particular bowler in an individual game, as Worrell beats the bat once more. So that's 5 catches in the match for Pope off Worrell. Draws level with Vikram Solanki off Stuart Meeker at Guildford in 2014 against Kent. Nadeem Shahid off Saqlain Mushtaq against Hampshire at the Keir Oval in 2002. Tony Locke, 5 caught and bowls against Warwickshire in 1957. Stuart Surridge off Alec Bedser versus Glamorgan at Cardiff in 1956. Pope with an opportunity now with Worrell continuing to top the list. Dan Worrell, 21 overs, 4 for 36 into Ben Brown. And beat him again. That's another gem of a delivery from Dan Worrell, who's been so impressive all game. Katya, you and Adam were talking about Worrell in the previous over. Worrell now 100 first-class wickets at 22 for Surrey. You sort of look at someone's overall career record sometimes. It doesn't always tell the full picture, because sometimes you start slower, etc. But his body of work over the last 3 years is probably as impressive as anyone in the country who's not playing international cricket, maybe Sam Cook aside.
Yeah, no, he is really impressive. And it will be really, really interesting to see when he does qualify how differently the noise around him becomes. Because someone with those kinds of numbers, you would think there would be a lot of noise around them playing international cricket. That's not really a possibility at the minute. So when that qualification does come through, it'll be really interesting to see how the discussion changes. Just on that stat, 5 caught and bowled.
Yes.
I'd love to see the scorecard of that match.
I feel like there are quite a few Surrey catching records from 1957, or at least the 50s, because there's the famous Mickey Stewart year where he took a totally obscene number of catches 77 apparently. 77 catches as a non-wicket keeper in a single season.
Do you have a bank of Surrey stats for the 1950s?
I don't personally, but I'm sure the man to our left has plenty. But you referenced earlier about part of what makes Surrey such a good side is their ability to win in different conditions, and Worrell's such a big part of that. Can you compare his work this week to the previous week at Canterbury? Oof, what a shot that is from Ben Brown. A change of intent from the Hampshire wicketkeeper, advancing down the ground, and he's whacked the very impressive Dan Worrell for 4 over extra cover. That sort of come from nowhere.
That's a ridiculous shot. It's backed away from it. Straight into the offside.
I guess when a bowler as good as Worrell's bowling as well as he is here, his accuracy can also become predictable, right? And Hampshire at a point in the game where they're not really going anywhere. They're 34 runs away from making Surrey bat again as Rory Burns reacts to that shot from Ben Brown by taking out a slip and placing him in a conventional sort of fly slip. Short, Brown advances down the track again, attempts a pull shot but doesn't get anything on it. That completes an eventful over from Dan Worrell. Hampshire 174 for 8. Worrell beat the bat on a couple of occasions and Brown responded with that extraordinary shot over extra cover for 4.
Absolutely intent on making Rory Burns bat again as soon as possible.
Well, we saw in a game, I think it was last year, where Surrey needed something like 10 to win at Edgbaston, and I think they opened the batting with Tom Laws and Dan Worrell. So even if Surrey do bat again, it's not a guarantee that we see Rory Burns and Dom Sibley open the batting. And for the first time in the game, we have the leading wicket taker in the 2024 County Championship, Cam Steele, on to bowl. 20 wickets at 12 so far in 2024. Not yet required here in round 4. Coming on for the first time as Surrey seek their 19th wicket of the game. He'll start to Brad Wheel.
Yeah, you kind of see the thought with Brown looking to attack here and tailenders in, bring the spin on and hope that the blood goes to the head, whack it up in the air, miss it, whatever. But what do you think of bringing Steele on now?
Yeah, I don't mind it at all. He's obviously been brilliant so far this season. And the Surrey bowlers have had a lot of overs into their legs so far. I don't mind it at all. We saw in the previous over Brown taking the aggressive option for the first time. Just on Dan Worrell, by the way, a great stat for you. In the 21st century, the only Surrey bowler with 100 or more wickets at a better average than Worrell is Morne Morkel, 107 wickets at 21.44.
That's very good company to keep.
They're very different types of bowlers, but I think they do a similar job for Surrey. Morkel was outstanding in their 2018 championship win. Often the difference between the two sides back then. Change of field mid-on, drop back to long on, and one delivery into that change of field. Wheel knocks it into that gap, takes a single. So Ben Brown not farming the strike yet, with Wheel for company. Another change of field. The man at long on has gone. No, they're taken out mid on. He comes in for the final ball of the over. Just one man out on the leg side boundary at deep square leg. Flatter. Brown goes aerial again and beats the man at mid off. He'll pick up 2. Thinks about a third, but sides against it. 3 runs of Steele's first over, so Brown once more had the opportunity there to farm the strike and opted against it. Yeah, going back to Dan Worrell, I was at Canterbury last week, and you can sort of look at the scorecard and think, you know, it's a mismatch between two sides. It's a Duke's ball, not the Kookaburra ball, but that was a difficult pitch to take wickets, and Worrell was brilliant. He dismissed Zach Crawley in pretty much exactly the same way in both innings. We know how dangerous Crawley can be once he gets in. Worrell continues into wheel.
Yeah, it's that digging in and finding what works for you on a pitch, really, isn't it? We know that you have to kind of bend your back quite a lot to get stuff out of the oval wicket, whereas I can imagine that Canterbury wicket is a very different kind of wicket to bowl on.
Yeah, really flat deck at Canterbury last week, and even just from the press box, just a different colour to what we've seen here. There's a tinge of grass all the way through here at the Kia Oval. Full again. Wheel defends it into the offside, and there's a slight misfield from Ryan Patel at point that allows Brown to scamper through for a single. Wheel moves on to 7.
Yeah, you can see what Burns is trying to do here. There's plenty of runs on offer if you can get it through that infield, but of course there is quite a risk in trying to do that if you're going to take the aerial route.
It's interesting contrasting the two sides at corresponding parts of their innings. I feel like Surrey have been much more proactive about how they're dealing with the tail. They seem to have set plans for different players. As soon as Carl Abbott in, we saw the short ball initially from Gus Atkinson, but actually even when you had the change of bowling and Worrell came on, the first delivery he bowled to Abbott was a short one, setting him up with a fuller one next ball that was caught by Pope in the cordon. We're yet to see that for Worrell against Wheel. So different plans with different players.
Yeah, I think proactive's a good way to describe it. We saw last week when 2 weeks ago now, where Somerset were here, that they really struggled to find any way of getting through Surrey's tail in any hurry. And here you can really see Rory Burns thinking about and reacting immediately to what's going on in front of him and what you can see. Even putting Cam Steele on straight away after he saw that intent of aggression from Ben Brown. So it's really good to see.
Yeah, it's almost a field change every delivery at the moment.
Yeah.
And it's not just Rory Burns, it's England vice-captain Ollie Pope, standing at second slip, who's very much involved in the decision-making. Short. And Brown attempts another pull shot and doesn't get back onto it as the umpire signals a no ball.
Yeah, more of a waft there than anything.
Quite a dangerous shot as well, with a man catching at fly slip and a man at deep third and 2 deep fine legs really.
Yeah, there's a lot of people behind the bat.
Yeah, 4 men behind the bat on the boundary. Short again. Wafts at it again. Misses it again. Fly slip almost acting as a backstop there. Jamie Smith unable to gather the ball, but no runs conceded because of the man almost directly behind Dom Sibley at first slip. As we have a look at the replay there, the sort of passage of play that you're probably used to seeing in Colts cricket. Another change of the field here, so the man at fly slip has moved into a conventional cover point. Another man is brought from mid-off into mid-wicket. Full, and Brown hits that through the leg side, doesn't completely time it, so it falls well short of the boundary. He picks up 2.
Yeah, I don't think they'll be too dissatisfied with that. We saw taking out the fly slip and putting the extra man in front of the bat. if that had been a touch squarer, a touch finer, could have gone straight to the fielder.
But going back to the comparison between Surrey and Hampshire, it feels like towards the end of that Surrey innings, as Jordan Clark, there's a point where it looked like Surrey would only get a lead in the region of 70 or 80 before Jordan Clark came in. And as he really got going and he was approaching his 100, there were times where I wasn't quite sure what James Vinch and Hampshire were trying to do. There's a point when Jordan Clark was in the 90s and Liam Dawson was bowling to Dan Worrell, 2 balls remaining in the over, and it was so clear that whatever Dawson bowled, Worrell was going to block it. But they still had 3 men on the offside boundary. Steele in again, finding his rhythm.
Yeah, it comes back to that finding ways to win point and identifying key moments in the game and making the breakthroughs there. You know, if Jordan Clark hadn't been able to score that many runs, and if they'd taken that chance, we could be looking at a completely different game.
Well, that was the passage of play that totally changed the game, really.
Well, you've got several key moments, don't you? You've got the collapse on day 1. You've got Jordan Clark coming in, and then you've got the session last night. And every one of those moments, Hampshire lost, you'd have to say. So it's not a surprise that they find themselves in a situation like this on day 4. If you lose those key moments on each of the days leading up to it, you're going to struggle to find a way to win.
Yeah, that Clark inning stands out for a few reasons. Partly due to the pace of it. As much as Surrey have dominated this game, that Clark innings aside, run scoring all game has been pretty hard to come by. Fluency has been quite difficult to find for most players. Oof. Cam Steele beats the bat. So, in between overs, we're going to see a compilation of those Ollie Pope catches, all 7 in the game. 2 there off Dan Worrell with Pope at second slip. Another smart catch at second slip. Another. This one an excellent diving low catch to his right. Worrell continues. Another waft from Ben Brown for Dan Worrell's short delivery. It looks like he's going to keep playing that shot, Katya.
Yeah.
It's not brought him many runs so far, but
well,
going to keep going at it.
You can kind of see it that if they're going to bowl this short and you've got this few wickets to play with and as few runs to get as possible, as few runs to get until you make Surrey bat again, this is the only way you can score your runs. And that fly slip has been taken out, so there is an area behind the bat. But it is I mean, is it really a shot? But it's a very risky one.
Brown declined a single on that occasion, which is interesting because he had opportunities to farm the strike early that he did not take. Yeah, going back to that Ollie Pope catch compilation, I think that's a feature where the England team have actually got better at in the last couple of years. I think Zach Crawley has developed into one of the best English slippers in a while. And actually, you go and watch that compilation, you say one of those 7 catches was outstanding, the one low to his right. The other 6 are regulation, but such a big part of being an excellent slipper is just making sure your percentage for those regulation chances is as high as possible.
Yeah, well, if you're talking about England, it wasn't that long ago when England had one of the worst percentages of slip catches in the world, so you would have hoped by this point they would have improved, and perhaps having a settled slip Gordon with Pope filling that role for Surrey is part of it. I think there was a point where they had slips who barely ever fielded in the slips of their counties. And I think people forget that is actually quite a specialist position to do, and how quickly you're reacting and how little time you've got. and all the different elements in it. You know, the proximity you are to the other slips, the technique of hands down and hands up is actually quite a technical specialist position. I think people forget that when they see people dropping slip catches. It's actually really hard.
More examples of that Surrey proactivity. Another field change. Dan Lawrence moving to fly slip again. And Brown swats that down the ground again. He doesn't quite time it, so it won't reach the boundary, and this time they opt against the second with one ball remaining in the over. Brown making a more conscious effort now to have as much of the strike as possible. Four slips in play as Worrell bowls the wheel for the final delivery of the over. And a bumper. To finish, Hampshire 183 for 8. Dan Worrell now has got through 24 overs in this Hampshire second innings, 4 for 46. As we take a look at the state of affairs at the moment, Hampshire still need another 25 runs to make Surrey bat again. I wouldn't say it's warm today, Katya, but it is warmer. It is much warmer than the first 3 days.
Yeah. Well, I was here yesterday and it was really, really cold when I came in and drizzling and really not very nice. I walked out my front door this morning, I was like, oh, this is a bit better. This is a bit different. It actually feels like you can play some cricket. I was very surprised we got on at all yesterday, to be honest.
Still continues. And now that we've seen Brown making an effort to ensure that he has as much strike as possible, very, very different field now. One man at slip, one man at a deepish backward point, and the rest of them are on the fence. And he sweeps that one for 6. Cam still bowling towards a shorter leg side boundary for Ben Brown. Slightly fuller from Steele, and Brown gets his foot to the ball and swipes it over the leg side. We've talked about that shortish leg side boundary, and Brown moves to 45.
Yeah, talk about those field changes. It doesn't matter if you can just clear the whole field.
Brown goes again and finds a fielder on the leg side boundary. Well caught by Ryan Patel at deep square leg. Cam Steele, third over of the match, picks up the 9th Hampshire wicket. Brown departs for a resilient 45. Surrey, 1 win away from making it 2-2.
Yeah, slightly comedic feel about that. Clears the field on the first attempt, tries to go again. You could see immediately as it left his bat, it was a lot flatter if we look here.
Yeah, Steele just pulled his length back a little bit. Brown didn't quite get to the pitch of the ball. Sort of tops edged it to Ryan Patel, who took an excellent catch diving low in the deep. And the end is nigh, you feel, in this game. Surrey 1 wicket away from an innings victory.
Yeah, it's one of those ones Surrey will definitely not want to get out there and bat again.
And if they do wrap it up before Hampshire score another 20 runs with their second innings victory in a row, so after those 2 early draws with a Kookaburra ball, Surrey really showing why they've been the dominant side of the last 2 championship seasons. And such is their strength, they're able to take wickets in so many different ways. Cam Steele, the man of the first 3 weeks of the season, not required until the 19th Hampshire wicket of the game. And as Abbas walks in, the Hampshire number 11, we'll see a total change of tact from Surrey.
Yeah, it's very sadistic, but I do like watching Mohamed Abbas bat.
The first ball of his first innings was quite entertaining, where he ducked beneath the ball that I don't think was that short, and he made a very, very early decision to duck under it, and he ended up doing very well to get completely underneath the ball.
Yeah, the ball had barely left the hand by the time he decided to duck it, and he actually made more of a likelihood that it would hit him by ducking into it. So it wasn't that short.
Animated discussions here between Rory Burns, Dom Sibley, Ollie Pope, just working out exactly where they want everyone for Mohamed Abbas. We've got 2 men at slip, a man at short leg. I think Ryan Patel's gone from the boundary to short leg.
Do you know what it is? It's the confidence of standing back from the stumps before he faces the ball, picking out where all the fielders are, twisting his bat.
And he just turned his wrist off that delivery as well, almost to say, yep, I'm picking them. Oof. Defended less confidently on this occasion. Abbas inside edges it to the man at short fine leg. Defends it past the man at second slip. It will run away, but not quite to the boundary. Jordan Clark retrieves it. Abbas gets off the mark. He picks up 2. Hampshire 191 for 9.
Well placed.
Looks like Dan Worrell will continue with an opportunity to pick up a second innings fifer. It's 3 days ago now, Katya, but how Surrey started the game with that new ball, winning their toss for the 4th game in a row, bowling first as they so often do here at the Kia Oval. They really set the tone for the days that followed straight away.
Yeah, well, there's something to be said for getting out there and dictating, and when you're full of confidence and when you know you've got a side that's capable of adapting to anything in front of you, it's a lot easier to do. But playing the game on your terms and refusing to bend no matter what the opposition does, that's what we've seen from Surrey, and that's what they continue to do. And it's not unique to cricket, it's any sports side really, when you've got that confidence to think, no, whatever they do, we're playing our games on our terms and we're not going to let you influence that. That's where you see the most successful sides emerge in any sport.
We talked about that Jordan Clark 100 earlier. That's some innings from Rory Burns. Resolutely getting through some excellent spells from Mohamed Abbas and Carl Abbott in particular. Surviving for more than 6 hours at the crease.
Well, 2 very different types of innings, and also, again, it was what the situation required. Surrey lost a couple of wickets early, and they were much tougher batting conditions than they could have been. And it's that experience of Rory Burns to dig in and take responsibility and say, I'm going to be the one that stabilises this innings, and that's what Hampshire lacked in their first innings, and here as well.
Surrey really crowding Abbas now. 4 slip fielders alongside Jamie Smith with the gloves, and a man at forward short leg. Oof. It's another one of those where I think Mohamed Abbas wanted to duck underneath the ball very, very early, but he quickly realised, to his credit, that the ball wasn't short enough to duck under. So in the end, moves his gloves away from the ball and lets that one fly through to Smith.
Again, another reason why Mohamed Abbas is great to watch is because you know his instinct is just to get out of the way of it, and that's a very relatable feeling. Yeah,
another feature of that Burns knock was that Hampshire had men back pretty much all the way through, so there are very few boundary options available to Burns, and he was very patient, very happy to effectively score 1 run off his own bat per over throughout the innings. Whereas Clark, when he came in, there was an immediate change in intent. Mohamed Abbas went nearly 25 overs without conceding a boundary, and then Clark scored 3 in his first 2 overs at the crease off Abbas. Worrell in again to Abbas. Short again, and Abbas ducks under it. So people wondering what's going to happen around lunch. So because Hampshire are 9 down, we are going to continue for a possible extra half an hour if Abbas and Wheel manage to get through it. As Abbas gets forward, defends it. Worrell finishes his 25th over, 4 for 47, Hampshire 192 for 9. We're going to have a double substitution in the commentary box. So first, Cam Ponsonby is going to take over from Katya Witney, and then Adam Collins will take over from me as Surrey seek their 10th wicket.
Extra half an hour, here we go. 1 o'clock local time, that should be lunch, but 9 down. Hampstead. Hello again, Cam.
Good afternoon, Adam. Back once more. One of the more obvious plans playing out in front of us. Cam still bowling to the short leg side boundary. 5 fielders positioned on that boundary rope.
Big mow across the line. That'll do for 1. Gives the strike to Mohamed Abbas. And number 11's number 11. I think we can call him Mo Abbas. Haven't got his numbers in front of me, but I know they're not too crash hot. Andrew Samson might be able to help us out with some of the high/low lights.
I do wonder actually whether Mohamed Abbas might play along with the same game. Hampshire trail by 15, so they can get to parity. That'll force a change of ends. I don't know whether that will induce the lunch break, whether it'll just be a 10-minute stop. Sorry, come back out to knock them off.
And what I'm interested in with that is if they can, I mean, you know, again, it's improbable, but if they can get 30 ahead or something, then they can get as many overs in as possible before that to help out with their over 8 issue from the first innings.
Elite sport at its finest, as ever.
Who would they bowl, I wonder? Oh, doesn't quite get there at first slip. It would have been Pope's 7th for the match. 8th for the match, indeed. 4 runs instead for Hampshire. So we're in really significant territory if Pope takes an 8th catch here, which would make for the innings 6, which is most unusual. 8 would equal lock in terms of Surrey's most productive outfielder in one game.
Would have been a fantastic catch, flying away to his left. A thin edge from Mohamed Abbas.
And also Mickey Stewart 7 in an innings, which has been the marker for a long time at this club. So I must admit my eyes are somewhat trained on Ollie Pope at first slip.
Very interesting to know, for Hampshire's perspective, where does personal pride lock in with personal convenience? Professional pride and personal convenience. I think to come back out and have a field, I can imagine quite a few people would rather avoid that.
I wonder who bowls the over. Let's say it's 2 or 3 overs and they're just trying to get them through as quickly as they can at the end of the over. Here from Steele, 197 for 9, still 11 away from parity. The strike goes back to Brad Wheel. Who do you think is the bowling off 1 pace Hampshire option?
Does James Vince take it upon himself as the leader of the county?
It might be something they actually prepare for, counties, in the off-season, like getting through an over in 75 seconds or whatever it is, because as we're saying here, it's already happened this season with Yorkshire, and it might save you a point. And think about how hard they work for those batting points.
I don't know how much brain power would have to go into bowling off one pace. You're probably sticking everyone on the fence just to act as ball boys more than anything else.
Yeah, either ball boys or you ring it up. You ring it up in order to try and swing and a miss. Apply a bit of pressure, because remembering, whoever the opening batters are, the last thing they want to do is get out in a situation like that. Averages do mean so much. So, yes, we've got that coming through on our screen as well, just confirming what we noted before, that they're -2 on their over rate. So they could leave this game with just 1 point from their bowling innings. To Surrey's 22, that would be. Edging and Pope! Of course it's Ollie Pope! What a magnificent individual performance from the man at second slip. Six in the innings. And 6 off Dan Worrell, who picks up a 5-wicket bag, appropriately diving away. A record-breaking achievement for the England number 3 in the field. Surrey wrap up this game by an innings and 10 runs. They bowl at Hampshire the second time around for 197. Wheel, the last man to go for 9. Surrey have a second win in April, Camp Ponsonby.
Another fantastic performance by Surrey. Ollie Pope and Dan Worrell teaming up once more. We'll see Pope. He's been so good flying away to his right throughout this match. This time Brad Wheel, the victim. A 5-wicket haul for Dan Worrell. He's passed 100 first-class wickets for Surrey in this match. And there we see him going on to 101.
What
a
way
bit of
to
nail
do it.
on the catch by Ollie Pope, I imagine.
What a way to do it, though.
Safe hands,
as we say, a record breaking on a number of fronts. Andrew Samson will help steer us through which records Pope's broken with that snaffle. There's quite a few of them, and appropriately Dan Worrell prepares to lead Surrey off. 5 for 47 after picking up 3 in the first innings as well. 3 for 44 there, so match figures of 8 for 91. Missed the first couple of rounds, Dan Worrell, but he has fed Ollie Pope at second slip throughout 6 times. 6 of his 8 wickets caught Pope, bowled Worrell. Superb.
What always surprised me about Worrell is just how young he is. He's only 32 years old. He's taken those 100 wickets for Surrey at an average of 22. He's such an invaluable player to this team in pursuit of the 3-peat, a 3rd consecutive county championship title. They'll be nestled safely in the top 2 with Essex, who also have got 2 wins this season. I'm not 100% sure how those points split out, but for all intents and purposes, another fine performance for Surrey.
So Surrey in the sun, Monday afternoon. They've done it inside one extended session. We are going to pass over to Andrew Samson just for a moment to give us some sense of what's been achieved there by Ollie Pope. It's such a rare thing to see an outfielder take so many catches in a game, or in one bowling combination, or indeed in one innings. Give us everything you got, Samo.
Well, we'll see if we can find it all. So firstly, 8 in the match equals the record for Surrey. Tony Locke took 8 against Warwickshire here at the Oval in 1957. And it's just the 23rd time in the history of first-class cricket that a fielder has taken 8 catches in a match, which makes it roughly once every 1,840 first-class games. So that is pretty rare. The 6 off Worrell is the first time that's ever happened for Surrey. There's been a fielder-bowler combination taking 6 catches in. Fielder taking 6 catches off a bowler in the same match. There were a few 5s before that we listed earlier.
And 6 in an innings puts him just behind Mickey Stewart.
So just behind Mickey Stewart. Mickey Stewart still holds the Surrey record for 7 in an innings, which he did against Northants in 1957. He didn't take any in the other innings, unfortunately. So I'm just going to have a quick look overall. 6 for one fielder and 6 by a fielder for a bowler in all first-class cricket. I know that record is at Wally Hammond, who, when he took 10 in a match, which is the world record for any first-class match for any fielder. Overall, he took 8 off Charlie Parker. But let's just see what I can get in terms of where the others, one fielder off a bowler in a match, where the 6 would stand. Again, there won't be very many of them. computer's going to take a minute
No,
or
you
two. So
do your thing, Samo, and I'll just do a quick call of the card and reflect on what's happened today. So when the players resumed at 11 o'clock this morning, just 2 hours and 10 minutes ago, Hampshire were 116 for 5. They were still 92 away from making Surrey bat a second time. They lost Dawson inside the first quarter of an hour. Caught by Pope, bowled by Worrell. That combination for 18. It was 117 for 6. And it was 139 for 7 when Fuller was beaten for pace by Atkinson, caught in the gully by Lawrence for 4. Then 165 for 8 when Abbott was also caught at second slip from the bowling of Worrell for 8. And then Ben Brown was the penultimate wicket, caught by Patel out in the deep from the bowling of Steele for 45, 189 for 9, and then 197 all out when Brad Wheel was the last caught Pope, bowled Worrell of the game, out for 9, all out 197. Surrey win by an innings and 11 runs. For the home side with the ball, it was Dan Worrell who was immaculate. 25.2 overs, 4 maidens, 5 for 47, 3 of the 5 that fell today. Kemar Roach picked up a couple, one on day 2 and one on day 3, 2 for 39 from 19 to help break the back of Hampshire's second innings. Gus Atkinson, 2 for 31, one yesterday, one today with pace from 13 overs. Cameron Steele gets himself in the book for the 21st time this season, 1 for 16 from 4, and Clark did his job, none for 42 from 16, helping them rotate through the course of 77.2 overs. So Surrey 359 in their first innings, Hampshire all out 151 the first time around, 197 in the second. Surrey will take from that, if I've got my sums right, 22 of the 24 points on offer, and Hampshire in a little bit of strife with their over 8. They're going to lose a couple of points, having only collected 3 bowling points in their fielding innings, so they'll leave South London with 1 point. And Samo, their dreadful record at this ground continues. It's never been a happy hunting ground for Hampshire.
No, that's right. I've forgotten what the record was now. It's 7 in a row, is it?
Yep.
That they've lost. 6 catches of one bowler by a field in a match. That's the 20th time that's happened in the history of first-class cricket. As I said, Wally Hammond got 8 of Charlie Parker when he took his world record of 10 in a match, which was Gloucestershire Surrey at Cheltenham in 1928. And Peter Walker got 7 of Don Shepherd for Glamorgan against Derbyshire at Swansea in 1970. And there's a bunch of other 6s off, including W.G. Grace off himself was the first one.
Always finds a way onto those lists. Andrew Samson, thank you for running us through all of that on, yes, a day where Surrey needed 5 to win the game, and Pope took 3 of those catches and gave us a chance to have a little bit of fun along the way. I welcome Cam Ponsonby back. Surrey having registered a couple of draws to start the season, nearly got there in spectacular circumstances against Somerset, chasing 209 in 19 overs. Were clinical last week down in Canterbury to get on the board. A 24-pointer down there, a 22-pointer here. They'll surely be on top when they go to bed tonight. I can't see Essex winning from where they are. Well on track for 3 on the trot.
They've hit their straps, they've hit their stride. And Surrey will be very happy that they know they have 2 more home fixtures coming up in the next 3 weeks. They have a week off, and they welcome Warwickshire here, then Worcestershire. Then it's the return fixture that we've just had play out over the last 3.5 days as they travel back down to Hampshire. Any kind of fears, I think fear is probably too strong a word, but any concerns or worries that with those first 2 draws that started the season, whether it had been a different setup to this Surrey side, whether the tried and tested method had potentially been moved away from with a greater emphasis on spin, they've all been kind of put to one side. This was a blueprint victory for Surrey. Just at the end, Cam Steele had a bowl, but it was the 4-seamers that did the ultimate damage in this match. They've bowled out Hampshire twice for less than 200. And Dan Worrell doing everything in plain sight. No mystery to what he's trying to do. No mystery to how he's trying to dismiss these Hampshire batters. He's targeting that outside edge, and he's finding it with regularity with his good mate Ollie Pope in the cordon.
Good time for a week off for Surrey. So 4 games back-to-back. Next week only 2 games in Division 1 across the bank holiday weekend. Then hosting Warwickshire here at the Kia Oval, a match that will run between the 10th and 13th of May. There are back-to-back home games there as well, because Worcester come to town the week after that, so 17 to the 20th. So it's going to be a real festival of cricket here in South London. Hampshire, the return leg is in May as well, the 24th of May that match starts, and then we're off into the June and July window. So 3 more games in this block, and Surrey in a good position, playing 2 of those 3 at home to lay a foundation under what they want to be, a 3-peat. They've given themselves every chance from here.
No, and you're seeing the kind of league take shape now. 4 matches into the season, you're almost a quarter of the way through. when we get to the back end of this block of 7 that started the season, you'll have a very good idea of who the front runners are. And you'd love to say things are often unpredictable in sport, but as it happens, Surrey and Essex, the two kind of strongest teams over the last couple of years, have taken the lead. They will not play each other in this opening block of 7, which means we're setting ourselves up for a really delayed period of excitement when Surrey and Essex, who do play each other twice this season, will take each other on. But Surrey don't really have there's not really a bad note against Surrey's name so far. The batters who wanted to score runs have scored runs, whether it's Rory Burns in this fixture with a captain's 100. You've got Jordan Clark offering with both bat and ball. The likes of Cameron Steele and Darren Lawrence have offered with both skills. And they'll have those England players. We'll have Ben Folkes back for the next fixture. One imagines all the England players for the most part playing 5 out of 7. So you'll have Pope, who will miss 2 in total. Axton may miss another 1 or 2. But the great thing that Surrey can do is they can turn on people like Tom Laws to come back and fill the gap if he recovers from his injury.
Thank you, Cam. I'll thank the rest of our commentary team as well. Andrew Samson has been with us throughout the course of the 4 days. We've got, how can I forget? I've picked up a piece of paper with all the names written down. Phil Walker, Katya Witney, Taha Hashim, Yas Rana. I'm probably missing a couple of people. John Surtees, Jake at the back of Daniel Norcross. Who have I missed? Mark Sharman next to our producer. Everyone's played their role across these 4 days, and we're really grateful for everyone who's tuned in and chosen to be with us here at the Kia Oval, where Surrey have been victorious over Hampshire by an innings and 11 runs. We'll catch you in a couple of weeks for the next game here.